Wow, here we go again. This is the 9th edition of Leftovers.
Cool.
Last time we did patriotism, and we just decided, again, 30 seconds ago, that we're going to talk about marijuana.
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. The devil's lettuce.
Oh, wow, we got other names for it. Yeah, there are a lot of names for it.
Ganja.
Dope.
Is it called dope?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's the topic today. If you're new to this, on Leftovers, so typically our episodes are long, like an hour. We go deep into theology. We prepare for it. On Leftovers, we don't prepare. We don't have notes. We just say a topic and discuss it. As if you came into my office as a pastor and said, hey, pastor, what do you think about marijuana? That's how we treat this.
Yep, because that's real. That happens.
So we don't know if we're about to agree or disagree.
Yeah,
sometimes it's more fun if we disagree, but we do that in love, mostly. Travis doesn't, but I do.
That's a heavy accusation.
We got the proof on all the audio here of the podcast. So, all right, marijuana. I went first last time, so your turn.
Yeah. No. I think it's a sin. Don't do it. I think that anything that has the ability to become a master and slave over you, to become a master over you and to make you a slave, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Don't do it.
So before I give my opinion, let me ask you a question. How would you differentiate marijuana from alcohol in that realm?
Yeah, so one hit from a blunt from marijuana, one puff, and when you start drawing from it, will have immediate effects over you as if you were buzzed. One drink of alcohol doesn't necessarily buzz you at all. I think there's a context and there's a difference. So anything that has some sort of psychological, physiological, I should say, effects on you and your brain.
Yep.
That also brings with it an addictive nature. So for that reason, I don't, and that's one of those things. I don't think drinking in and of itself necessarily is a sin.
Right.
I don't think that.
Right.
But I don't drink.
Right.
So I try to be consistent because I fear the thought and the idea of having some sort of effect on me.
Right.
That could potentially be
right.
A master over my life.
So we have a slight disagreement, whereas I would say I would not define occasional recreational marijuana use as an absolute sin. I do believe it's unwise. I do believe, and I wouldn't say it's fully a conscience issue either. I think you can abuse it, just like you abuse other substances. I think it's unwise because, I've heard the arguments. I've got friends who will say, I use it just like other people use other things to just calm themselves down from the end of the day, and it doesn't alter me. Like, I still think logically, and I've never done anything crazy on marijuana. It just simply calms me down. It was created by God, all this stuff. I understand all the argumentation. I believe that it's unwise. And it's tough because it's not something that is specifically addressed in Scripture, marijuana specifically. So I think it's hard to make a hard and fast rule like this is sinful. Now, we are called to be sober-minded, and if you're not sober-minded, it is a sin. So if you do anything to the point of not being able to be sober-minded, clear in thought, that's sinful. I don't believe that marijuana always puts you in a state of not being sober-minded. But that's my thought. Here we go.
I love it.
You're smiling at me.
Yeah. So I think that you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. You have to define things, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't talk about it being, it's not in the Bible. Marijuana's not in the Bible.
Right.
So we have to think in categories at this point. Mm-hmm. The closest thing that we have is alcohol. You already brought that point up.
Yep.
So getting drunk is a sin.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Define drunk. That would be the next question. You have to define what does it mean to get drunk, and then you would have to equate that to other recreational substances. Is it natural? Sure. Cacao leaves that is used to create cocaine is also completely natural.
Yep. I'm not saying that's my justification.
It's not your justification.
Yeah.
And I heard you say that that's what other people say.
Right. Yeah.
But that's just, it's always the easiest, like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all, Coke's also natural. You're going to go snort some cocaine? No, you're not going to do it. That'd be bad. So, what does it mean to get drunk? You would have to define that.
Right.
So, is getting buzzed drunk? And if you say no, then you would have to define why. Why is getting buzzed not drunk? Because I would argue that having your brain physiologically affected and you being changed in your mind of thinking, or even physiologically and how you feel and how you're, like you said, sober-minded.
Right.
If those things are affected, right, then that is getting drunk. I think that's the easiest way. We have blood alcohol content levels of 0.08. You can go that route. But at some point, you have to define what does it mean to be drunk, and then you equate that.
Yep. I struggle a little bit with drawing a hard and fast line because, and I know you're going to immediately have some arguments for this because I've heard them, and I get them to an extent. So for example, you go and get an intense medical procedure done, you're given opioids that literally alter your brain so that you don't feel pain. And you're not sober-minded on opioids. I mean, it's worse than being buzzed. And so I would say that if you make the rule immediately, anytime your mind is altered in any way, and anytime that you're not in your 100% capacities for any reason whatsoever, it's sinful. You're going to have to draw a lot of other sins that I don't think you would be quite willing to draw. I do agree with you. We got to define, what does it mean to be drunk? What does it mean to not be sober-minded? I just think it's hard, and I'm not trying to be ambiguous, and I'm not trying to complicate things and muddy the water. I think it's hard to just definitively say at this point, at this alcohol level, it's a sin, or at this level of marijuana, it's a sin. This is where I would say that it goes to somewhat, there's some line here, but it also somewhat goes to a hard issue. Why are you chasing after that thing? And this is where I think marijuana and alcohol can become a sin, even if you're not becoming drunk or incapacitated. It can be a sin if you're running to that as your escape, as your way to rest, as your way to just kind of remove yourself from the things of the world. At that point, it's becoming an idol in your life. It's becoming something you need in order to function, and it's sin at that point. So I would say that. I think it becomes tricky when you draw this hard and fast line that says anytime your mental state is altered, that is a sin because you're not sober-minded. You're going to run into some issues there, in my opinion. So.
Right. So I completely agree with you. I think that your argument is, I think it's too black and white, and you're not giving enough room for wisdom.
Okay.
So I agree with you that you can't make a hard and fast rule saying that in every single situation, no matter what, here it is. That wasn't my argument. My argument was in reference to recreational marijuana. So you have two different categories, and we can't have a category error saying, well, these people just had, surgery on getting their appendix taken out, therefore they were given some morphine in order for their pain to go down, right? Versus homeboy over here is just chilling at home and wants to watch the Avengers, while smoking a blunt and eating some pizza, right? There's a difference between recreational use and medicinal use.
Right.
So I'm saying that I have a completely different category for that.
Okay.
So if we're talking and pardon me, and I could completely be wrong. I've been thinking and talking in regards to recreational marijuana.
Okay.
So with recreational, I'm just using it. I think people would be really surprised and shocked to take blood tests and breathalyzer tests to evaluate what their blood content level is while they drink. Right? Because 0.08, which makes it illegal for you to drive, because there's been so many exhaustive amounts of tests done on people who, once they hit that level, 0.08, they're technically considered incapacitated to drive, because their brain has been affected. You may be sitting there chilling at home, slamming a couple of drinks, and you could be at 0.1 or 0.09 or something like that, and you think that you feel completely fine, but in reality, you're incapacitated. So my argument then becomes, at what level do we determine what does it mean to be drunk?
Yeah.
And then, and it takes a significant amount less of marijuana to be entered into your system, of actually, like I said, taking a puff to get to that level of incapacitation than it does alcohol. So once we identify and define what does it mean to be drunk, we could then equate that over to you being mentally and physiologically incapacitated in marijuana.
Yeah. I don't think we're crazy far off.
Right. Are you at recreational and medicinal, or are we at different things
we haven't
there?
defined that category. So here's a couple quick, helpful statements. If marijuana is illegal and you do it, it's a sin, because you've defied government.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
If it's
That's
illegal
easy.
and you smoke it, it's a sin, period.
Completely.
Okay?
But what if it's legal?
If it's legal, recreational, I really struggle with it. I still am not sure that I would, and I don't know. I'm still not quite sure. I would just say in every single scenario, in every single one, you sinned. You need to repent. You took a puff or two of that, and
For
you just need to
recreational
repent.
use,
For
right?
recreational use.
Okay.
Medicinal use, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we're different there. That's because they even take out the components of it that gets you high. It's literally strictly used for medicinal purposes.
Yes.
We're both okay with that. We're
Yes.
talking about recreation.
Yes. It could be part of my ignorance on exactly what happens to somebody's brain when they smoke marijuana. I may have ignorance in that, and I might change my mind if I'm shown science on that. I just, at this point of where I'm at, I struggle to just say definitively, based on people I've talked to who are my friends who talk to me about what happens to them when they've done it.
Yeah.
That's where I struggle, because I'm like, I'm not quite sure that I can quite say with definitive that in every single area it's a sin. What I'm saying is I do believe that recreational use is unwise.
Right.
I would advise any Christian not to do it. I would never look at somebody and say, yeah, I think you should try just hanging out and smoking a joint. I would never do that, never in a million years. In every instance, if somebody asked me, I would say, no, don't do it.
Yeah. And I respect, and just for clarity's sake, everybody listening, we're having a debate and we have disagreements here about if it's a sin or not and what that would look like and what that would mean. But don't get that confused with the fact that Kenny doesn't understand what he just said.
Yeah, I don't hand out joints on Sundays.
Kenny is not smoking dope. You know what I'm saying?
I never have.
And he's not recommending that Christians do it.
Right.
So some people may be listening and be like, well, one guy thinks that he shouldn't. The other guy thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
He did not say that. He absolutely disagrees with it. Yet we're talking about, is it a sin issue?
Right.
And I would also agree with Kenny, about the hard issue behind it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. I'll be honest with you. Talking to somebody about alcohol, talking to somebody about marijuana or whatever it is, I don't really trust people's thoughts and opinions who are people who are doing it on a regular basis.
Right.
Because there is sinful preconceived ideas and notions and presuppositions in your head.
Yep.
And they're like, of course, somebody who's smoking dope all the time is going to be like, or even occasionally for recreational purposes, they're going to be like, yeah, it's not a big deal. It doesn't even affect me.
Right.
But no dip, you're going to say that, right?
Right.
So I think that you got to be careful, and you really have to dig deep into the hard issue of the who, the what, the where, the why, the how.
Yep.
Why are you doing it?
Yep. Well, and again, even though I'm sitting here saying I can't quite look at somebody and say definitively always 100% of the time it's a sin, I still would look at somebody and go, why are you so concerned about finding out, like, is this a sin or not? Like, because what you're doing is you're doing what the teenager does, who says, how far can I go before it's a sin sexually with my girlfriend?
Yep.
Right? You're doing the same thing. Instead of saying, how can I most honor Christ, you're asking, like, well, is it a sin? Because I really want to do it. I just need to know, is it a sin or not?
Yep.
In a lot of those cases, not in every one, I'm trying to be generous, like, in a lot of those cases, all that person's trying to do is figure out what's the line and how close can I get to it. And I don't believe that's godly. So I want to say that too. I just still, again, maybe there's some people out there who can show me some hard evidence to show me what happens to a brain the second you take a puff of marijuana. Maybe I'll change my mind. I don't know. But where it stands now, I struggle just saying definitively always it's a sin. At the same time, I would never encourage anybody to do it. I think it's unwise. I don't think it's something that Christians should pursue.
No, and that's good. I don't think that you can maintain sober-mindedness and sobriety while being under the influence of anything.
Yeah.
So that's really the crux of my argument, along with the addictive components that come along with it,
Yep.
and not wanting to be a slave to anything but Christ.
Yep.
So those are kind of where we really land.
Yep.
And to be honest, and let's just say at the end of it, let's just say that it's not. Let's just, for sake of the argument, it's not a sin issue. Let's just say that for a minute, and it is just a wisdom issue. Okay, that's still a big issue.
Yeah.
We still both agree
Yep.
that if it is a wisdom issue only, we think it would be foolish if you were to partake in it.
Yep.
And that should be enough
Yep.
for you to say, I don't want to be the
Yep.
fool described in the book of Proverbs.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I don't want that at all. Therefore, don't do it.
Well,
don't smoke dope.
We're going to go just a few minutes over because I got something else I really want to say here, because I think one of the counterpoints is going to be, okay, well, why are you okay with, alcohol, saying that to a degree, as long as you don't get drunk, it's not a sin, but with marijuana, I can have a few puffs and be okay. I would say that one difference among many is that the Bible actually talks positively about alcohol to a degree. There's a lot of negatives towards drunkenness, not being deceived by it. I'm not trying to say like everybody go out and drink everything you can. I'm just saying there are verses in the Bible that actually address alcohol in a positive light. And Jesus drank wine. I mean, you can try to dispute with me all you want. Jesus drank wine.
Absolutely.
There's no dispute about that, in my opinion. So drunkenness is a sin, and having occasional drinks is not, as long as you're not becoming drunk, buzz, whatever you want to call it. So that's one important point I think I wanted to say, because I can hear some of the rebuttals on the podcast verse coming my way. So.
And to help and just to educate you on the topic, just to help, and this is something that Kenny and I know, we talked about before, there's a massive difference between alcohol drinks consumed today and the wine that Jesus was drinking.
There is, yes.
So it was completely diluted
Yes.
down wine that was used just to destroy the bacteria in the water.
Yep.
So was he drinking wine? Absolutely.
Yes.
Can you equate that to smoking a joint today? No.
You can't even equate the wine that Jesus drank to the wine we have today.
You can't.
Jesus
It's
could have
so much
drank.
stronger.
Jesus could have drank a lot more of that wine than we can drink of the wine we have today.
Absolutely.
Because of alcohol content, for sure. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's important too. Wow. Listen, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance, but 15 minutes can also tell you what to think about marijuana, apparently.
That's awesome. Geico, will you sponsor us?
Am I not supposed to do that?
I don't
can I
think
get in
you're
trouble for saying that?
They'll censor us. That was trademarked, you dummy. So Geico, hey, that's Geico's line, not ours. Will you go ahead and sponsor us and the Calvary Catechism? We know that you're a Christian.
I don't know if they are.
That'd
That'd be great.
I think the little gecko's
We'll take some
born
money.
again gecko.
Yeah. He's redeemed. All right, y'all. Thank you all for listening and putting up with us. Until next time, this has been the Calvary Catechism Leftovers.
Bye.